friends, welcome back to Three Barrow Farm. It is quite mild outside, and I think it's because we're just covered in cloud right now. But we're in winter here in Victoria, Australia, and it is pretty cold at this time of the year. So I wanted to focus over the next month or so on eating through our food stores. So we try to grow as much food as we can, and we try to eat from our garden for as long as we can during the growing season and into winter. And we also preserve a lot of the food that we grow for the colder seasons. And now that I'm feeling up to it, I'm ready to start the no spend challenge of eating through what we have here and eating from the garden as well. We've already been doing this for a few weeks now. I did put quite a few meals in the freezer, and we have had food ready to eat in the garden. So I've had to cook from our garden because it's there and ready to go. So we've been harvesting broccoli, cabbages, cauliflowers, some Brussels sprouts. We've also had kale and lettuce and herbs, which is mostly parsley, thyme and coriander from the garden. We've also got lots of spring onions and walking Egyptian onions and turnips as well. We've also had a few beetroots as well. So we've been eating quite a bit from the garden. But then we have food in the freezer too. We have blanched carrots, we have zucchini, we have broad beans. We've got lots in the freezer, and we need to work through all that food so we have room for the next lot of food to go in the freezer and in the pantry as well. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be working through my pantry and the freezers, and we're going to cook solely from our homestead here. Now, of course, I do have some things that are purchased that are already in our pantry. I will be using these things as well, and also using things like salt and pepper and some herbs and spices that we of course don't grow here. I'm really looking forward to this challenge, mostly because I have not been working out of the home for quite some time now. So saving money wherever we can is priority right now. And I also hate waste as well. So I want to be taking from the garden first before I'm buying anything outside of our property. So the first thing I need to do is a tally of everything. I want to be really organized this year. Previous years when I have done this, and I will put a link up here to the playlists of the last 2 years I've done this no spend challenge. I've not really started with a base list of every single thing that I have in the freezer and the pantry. So that's where I'm starting this time. So I opened up both our big freezers, and we have one deep freeze that is primarily meat. It is mostly the meat that we raise here, which is lamb. So we have a lot of lamb in our freezer. We have some chicken and some beef as well. And then the other freezer is full of pre-cooked sauces, so pasta sauces and sauces that I can turn into a lentil sauce or add beans to, or even add meat to if I want to, so I can change them. But they're just sort of base sauces with lots and lots of vegetables in them. So when we're in the thick of summer and autumn, we have so much coming in that I like to throw these sauces together with all of the vegetables that we're growing and then freezing them. Sometimes I get around to bottling them. I didn't get around to bottling them last season, and that's because I wasn't up to it. I wasn't quite well enough to. So I've got a lot of that, and then I've got a lot of the individual ingredients as well, as I described before, the carrots, the zucchini, the broad beans, etc. And then of course we've got the bottled produce as well. So I've got my list together, and I'm just going to create from this and do weekly plans. So I'm going to plan out what I'm going to cook, and then hopefully we will get through all the food that we put away the last 2 seasons. These two are always ready to go into the shed. All right, here we have the meat freezer. So we've got a lot of our meats down there. We've also got some tomatoes, and we've got some lasagnas that I've made up. And I've got a few meals here. I've got some roast potatoes, which freeze really well. I've got pumpkin soups, and I've got tomatoes and pureed pumpkin as well. All right, and here's deep freezer Number 2. So this one is full of some sauces, just containers of tomatoes, heaps of containers of tomatoes, some soups. So I've got pumpkin and ginger soups. I've got blanched broccoli. Here are the broad beans, lots of pesto, and I've got some spring onions as well, and carrots. There's the carrots. More tomatoes, and then there's heaps underneath these baskets as well. So there's lots of food in here to eat through. It's really the perfect time to go through the freezer right now because it is cold outside. So it is a perfect time to make an inventory of everything I have to work through. After making my inventory, I wanted to use up the fresh produce that's been in my fridge, and this large pumpkin that was starting to feel a bit soft, so needed to be used up as well. For those of you who watched my pumpkin harvest video back in autumn, these very orange pumpkins were the Cinderella variety that some of you suggested that they were. I discovered that I had planted a few seeds in my garden after going through some of my disorganized gardening notes. I also decided to make a vegetable and bean soup with the rest of the vegetables in the fridge. There were only 2 homegrown beetroots, a homegrown cabbage, and 2 store-purchased capsicums. I had a container of vegetable soup in the freezer, but to feed us for a couple of meals, I needed to add to this portion of soup. So adding these vegetables, a tin of beans, and a frozen container of buzzed up homegrown tomatoes would stretch the pre-made soup. I'll be starting the first week of the challenge on Sunday, so I was treating this Saturday as a day of preparing for the challenge. By having a big lot of soup there to see me through to the next evening would allow me to do some baking prep tomorrow for the weeks ahead. I added 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, some salt and pepper, basil, and some extra water to the soup. I decided to make it easy and dry roast the pumpkin to make a puree for adding into various meals and snacks over the next few weeks, rather than steaming the pumpkins. I can freeze the pureed pumpkin, and I also decided to make some pumpkin scones with a small portion of the puree. I've made these scones before in my Thermomix, so doing a double batch was easy, and they would go nicely with the soup for dinner and be useful as a snack for my children over the next couple of days. Friends, it feels really good to be back in the kitchen again. I feel like I'm more myself every day that passes now, and doing these little things that I haven't been able to do for the past 4 to 5 weeks feels so lovely to do, especially right now while it's really cold outside. I get to spend my day right next to the fire and make everything from scratch, which is what we do here on our homestead. These plastic takeaway containers have been so useful this year. I'm using them over and over again and just crossing off what was last in them and writing what I replaced the empty containers with underneath. These containers were really useful for putting the crushed and buzzed tomatoes in to freeze this past autumn when I didn't have the energy for bottling all the tomatoes in preserving jars. Well, friends, that's all for the prep day on my no spend challenge or pantry challenge. Let me know if you're joining along with me. I know there are a few of you who work through your pantry and freezers in winter as well. Thank you so much for being here and watching, friends. Make sure to like and comment on this video so more people can find my videos. Take care and see you soon.